Mostar is one of Bosnia and Herzegovina's most visited destinations and a city where East and West have met for centuries. It sits in the south along the emerald green Neretva River. We are on the train leaving at 7:15 in the morning to go from Sarajevo to Mostar. It's an interesting process. We have our paper tickets here, and you buy the ticket, you can buy it ahead of time, but you can just get on any train for the day. There's two, but 7:15 or 4:45 in the afternoon. So we got up real early so that we could get on the train and do the 2-hour drive to Mostar.
Yeah, and we're sitting on the left side because that's where the best views are.
Left is best. The train ride was beautiful as we wound through mountains and green river valleys, but it seemed to me as though there were beautiful things to see from both sides of the train. When we arrived, we were lucky to be able to check into our apartment early. The kitchen was a little on the small side, but otherwise the apartment was spacious and comfortable. Best of all, we were only a few minutes walk from the old town, making it the perfect base for exploring Mostar over the next week. We wandered through the cobblestone streets of the old town, passing shop after shop selling local handicrafts. Mostar is especially known for its traditional copper work, and the beautiful copper pieces were hard to miss. Before long, we caught our first glimpse of the landmark Mostar is most famous for, Starry Most, or the Old Bridge. We made our way up the steep, polished stones to the top, where we enjoyed the stunning views of this fairy tale-like setting. There were quaint stone buildings, red tile roofs, green mountains, and the blue-green waters of the river flowing beneath us in both directions. Bridge diving is a long-standing tradition here. The jump is about 78 feet into the cold river below. Divers like this one often collect donations from the crowd before making the leap, and while we saw several preparing to jump, we never happened to be there when anyone actually took the plunge. For lunch, we stopped at this restaurant, which was later recommended by our tour guide as one of the best in town. The food was incredibly flavorful and delicious, and we enjoyed it so much we actually ended up coming back again later in the trip. We continued exploring this picture-perfect town. Towering green mountains framed the city in every direction, and as we crossed one of the many bridges, the crystal clear blue-green water flowed through the heart of the city, creating this unreal landscape. And as we walked, we saw more reminders of the country's long history of religious diversity, with a church bell tower rising in one part of the skyline and a mosque and its minaret standing nearby. The next day, we set out to explore some of Mostar's impressive mural art. In recent years, street art festivals and local artists have helped transform parts of the city into an open-air gallery, using murals to celebrate culture, tell stories, and bring new life to spaces still marked by the past. The artwork ranges from colorful portraits to thought-provoking pieces inspired by the region's history and identity. Some of the murals are absolutely massive, covering entire sides of apartment buildings and towering above the street below. We found ourselves constantly looking up, discovering new works around nearly every corner, and gaining a different perspective of the city beyond its famous bridge and the historic old town. Each mural had its own unique style and story, turning an ordinary walk through the city into a bit of a treasure hunt. All of the pieces were amazing in their own right, but this one ended up being my personal favorite. Literally overnight, the city seemed to transform. The day after we arrived, we woke to find flags strung up all over town as excitement began to build for Bosnia and Herzegovina's upcoming World Cup matches. We walked on through the city past the Crooked Bridge, a small but beautiful Ottoman-era stone bridge that dates back to the 16th century. It's often called the little sister to the famous bridge and was thought to be a kind of prototype for the larger design that came later. From there, we headed down towards the river. Even though the water looks incredibly inviting, there's not much swimming here. The river is fed by mountain sources, so the temperature is extremely cold year-round, typically around 50 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit, and the current runs fast and strong in this part of the city. There are a few spots where locals and visitors carefully wade in, but even on a warm, sunny day, the water is still shockingly frigid. Troy was brave enough to jump in for a quick dip, but I didn't make it much past my knees before retreating back to the shore. As we continued exploring, we couldn't help but notice the contrast between the beautifully restored buildings and the many that still sit abandoned, a reminder of the city's more recent history and ongoing recovery. We wandered through Zrinjevac Park, a leafy green space in the heart of the city where we came across the famous Bruce Lee statue. Erected in 2005, it was created as a symbol of unity and peace, representing a figure who transcended cultural and ethnic divisions. From there, we made our way down to the River Beach area, one of the best viewpoints for seeing the old bridge from below and watching the small boats launch out into the river. It's a peaceful stretch of the riverbank where the turquoise water and stone arches come together in a postcard-perfect scene. We'd also heard about a bronze sculpture nearby celebrating creative expression and the city's street art culture. When we finally found it, we were surprised and honestly delighted by its tiny size, especially compared to how it looks in photos online. We tried out another spot across the river from where we had been earlier for some more beach time. There was a large concrete platform and a section of the river that had been partially walled off, creating a calmer, more protected area to get in the water. We cooled off in the incredibly cold river, but mostly just enjoyed slowing down and relaxing by the water's edge. It was the perfect way to take in the scenery, dip into the river for a moment, and enjoy a quieter side of Mostar away from the busier viewpoints. On the way home, we picked out a couple types of baklava to take home with us to help finish out an amazing day in Mostar. The next day, we set out on an all-day tour to some of the places around Mostar that are a bit harder to reach on your own. We had a fantastic local guide who brought the region's history and landscapes to life as we made our way outside of town. Our first stop was the Fortista Skywalk, a glass viewing platform built on Fortista Hill above Mostar. It was opened in recent years as part of a mountain adventure area designed to highlight the dramatic landscape above the city. From the walkway, you get sweeping panoramic views above Mostar, the valley below, and the surrounding mountains, and it really puts into perspective just how deep and scenic this region is. Next stop was Blagaj. This was actually our guide's hometown, which made it even more special. This place immediately feels both peaceful and powerful, shaped entirely by water and stone over thousands of years. We walked along the river and hopped on a boat for a short ride into the cave system to see the source of the spring itself. The water here is incredibly deep, with the Buna River spring reaching depths of around 200 feet, and it releases an enormous volume of water, roughly 1,000 cubic feet per second, pouring out from beneath the cliffs every minute. It's also a surprisingly lively spot, with ducks and even pigeons gathered around the water, completely unbothered by the steady rush of the spring or the tourists. The whole area is absolutely stunning, with the river bursting out from beneath the towering limestone rock faces and flowing out into the open valley in brilliant shades of blue and green. Just across the small bridge sits the famous Dervish House, a 16th century Sufi monastery built right at the base of the cliff beside the river source. It was once a place of spiritual retreat for dervishes. Next, we headed to Pochital. Before exploring the town, we stopped to grab a burek for lunch on our guide's recommendation. Pochita dates back to the 15th century and was originally built as a fortified settlement during the Ottoman period. Today, it's nearly empty with a year-round population of only about 15 residents. Our guide introduced us to a local drink made from slightly sour pomegranate juice, a refreshing and tangy taste that was perfect for the uphill walk in the heat. Just as we started making our way up toward the tower, the call to prayer began, echoing from the mosque below. Built as part of the town's Ottoman-era fortification, the tower served as a defensive watchtower, giving guards a commanding view of the river corridor below. Inside, the stone staircase winds upward in tight, narrow turns. On the second level, there was a lovely cross breeze flowing through the open windows. It turned out to be the perfect place to sit for a moment and enjoy our burek and the delicious pomegranate juice. Up a final set of narrow stairs, we reached the top level of the tower. At the top, small window openings framed incredible views in every direction, from the clustered stone houses of the town below to the winding river cutting through the valley. We made our way back down from the tower and stopped at the mosque below. The mosque dates back to the 16th century, built during the Ottoman period when Pochita was an important fortified town along the Neretva River. Our guide pointed out that this large tree standing right in front of the mosque is actually even older than the building itself, an incredible living witness to centuries of history unfolding in the small valley. Inside, the mosque is simple and peaceful, with bare stone walls and a calm, uncluttered prayer space that feels almost suspended in time. Our next stop was the Kravica Waterfall. We made our way down a steep, winding path, and with each step, the sound of rushing water grew louder until we finally caught our first glimpse of the falls below. It opens up almost suddenly, a wide semicircle of cascading water dropping into a bright turquoise pool surrounded by thick greenery and limestone cliffs. The cascades drop roughly 80 feet into the pool below, and it's easy to see why it's such a popular stop for locals and visitors alike. We made one more quick stop on the way back to town at the confluence of the Buna and Neretva rivers. The water carves a natural channel running beneath the bridge, and we learned that at times during the year, the water level can rise significantly and this whole riverbed fills, becoming one powerful, fast-moving flow through the valley. We got one last recommendation from our guide for a restaurant back in Mostar, and it turned out to be the perfect final meal in the area. It had a lovely atmosphere right by the river with the sound of the water in the background and a relaxed setting to wind down after a full day of exploring. The trout was simply prepared, very fresh, and absolutely delicious. To finish, we tried two local desserts. The first was smokva kolač, a fig cake that was rich, slightly dense, and naturally sweet from the figs. The second was a walnut-stuffed baked apple, which I think was my personal favorite. After dinner, we made our way back down to the riverside beach to catch the sunset. As the light slowly faded and the old bridge lit up, it stood out beautifully against the deep blue sky, reflecting softly in the water below. We wandered back through the old town, enjoying how different it feels at night, quieter and calmer once the crowds thin out and the day fades away. Somewhere along the way, we passed a simple sign reading, "I love Mostar," and it pretty much summed up how we felt about the city by the end of our stay.